Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hey, we're back with the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. This is episode number 148, almost up to the big 150. Oh, my goodness. I am Charlie Carden, your humble servant, Trek Lord of West Michigan, here with my number one podcasting pal, Mr. Peter Stein. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into talking about a random episode as we do, and touching Lower Decks for the first time in a few months, which I'm excited about. And then we're going to jump into talking about the final season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, the first segment of 4. To do that, it'll be our first series that actually ended properly that we've covered in this fashion, because TOS was canceled, Enterprise was canceled. So in the recap format, this is the first time that we're going to finish it. And then we're actually going to spend a week, the following week, talking about a nice retrospective about it that was on the season 7 TNG Blu-ray disc. But more on that when we get there. But first and foremost, we always love to talk about our Secret Friends Unite Patreon squad. These are the wonderful folks that support us and give us the opportunity to do exclusive shows, early shows with no ads, other Discord benefits, etc. You can visit us at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You try us out for 7 days for free. You can then get your first month for 50% off and then stay on board for as little as $2 a month. So who is going to argue with that? Lots of fun stuff coming down the pike, including a lot of great interviews that we've with celebrities and entertainment pros that we've not only done, but several that we have coming up. First and foremost, Derek Trevelyan, my buddy, the figure dude, on board. Francie, who does my wife's hair, the official SFU hairdresser. Xbox Expansion Pass, Mr. Luke Lore, and my great Uncle Tim. John Sedorf, the Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Kelly and Crayley. Brendan Myers, Corey in HD, Matthew Keel, my buddy Kurt Krug, who I actually got to see yesterday. April and I were doing a toy show in the Detroit area, and he came and hang out with us for a bit, so that was pretty awesome. And our friend Tanya Lee, who actually, I'll say this now before I forget, was the person who chose today's random episode. Nice. So yes, thanks for Tanya. We'll be having her back on the show, I think, a little bit later on this year. But this is the first week that we get to officially celebrate our 5 new Patreons, the folks that entered and won an opportunity to be on our Patreon for a whole year, thanks to our top tier Patreon folks, the Awesome Nice family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stell, and Henry. Very grateful for that. But I'm going to rattle off the names one more time, but then we're going to circle back to the first one. This was Todd's idea, because every new Patreon gets a different gift of a whatever it is program that they're on SFU. They get a power, and on this show we give them a Star Trek race and a job. So I'm going to cycle through these folks, and then we're going to circle back to number 1. Chipotle Bear, famous Seamus, J Newport 007, Cam the Movie Man, who's been on Holocron with us, and Brian Osterman, aka Darth Prozac. So circling back, Chipotle Bear is getting a Star Trek race and a job. I tried to prep you for this, so hopefully you came up with something. But if not, like everything we do on the show, sometimes we just go on the fly. So Go ahead. What Star Trek race does Chipotle Bear have, and what job does he have in the Star Trek world?
All right. So for race, Chipotle Bear, because I was watching Lower Decks, I'm thinking Bajoran. You're part of the Bear Pack. So goes hand in hand with being in security, just because everyone loves our good old shacks. So that's where my brain went, is that you get to be a Bajoran and join Papa Bear. So
very nice. Well, I'll stick with the Lower Decks theme. Although it makes reference to an episode that we both found kind of icky, but I still think it's kind of fun. I think because Chipotle Bear being the name, I think he should be the Star Trek bear. Well, actually, I take that back. That could be two different ones. So do I go with the icky one or do I go with the kind of fun one? I'll go with the fun one. So he is a Salot. That is a Vulcan wild animal. That is
native to Vulcan, yeah.
But he's it's the size of basically a human bear. Once described as a teddy bear, as an interchange between Spock's mother and Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. But it's the size of an actual honest-to-God bear with 6-inch fangs and claws.
Yeah, it's a saber-toothed bear.
It's a saber-toothed bear. So the only job that a saber-toothed bear would have would be to eat and destroy. So that's an easy job, and you get paid in raw meat, I guess.
And if you befriend Sarek's family, pets.
Yes, exactly. Pets. Very, very nice pets. So again, welcome to our 5 new folks. I know we've talked about it a little bit here and there. And then, yes, thank you again, of course, to the Nice family for making it all possible. Again, visit us at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite and try us out. You will be glad that you did. All right, let's get into this episode. We have a couple of news segments to talk about. Sometimes we have them, sometimes we don't. We have like 2.5 this week, but the first one, and again, we work off of trekmovie.com. That's kind of our preferred website. We're kind of spiritual partners to them because we give them credit on our show, and they're also podcasters as well. So this first news article, now this is a quote from Sonequa Margaret Green, who was the captain/admiral/ just Burnham on Star Trek Discovery, who is a lovely lady. Got to meet her on the cruise, as I've talked about, and really enjoyed talking to her. But she was quoted as recently as saying that Star Trek Discovery was originally supposed to be a typical 2-hour finale, a la, TNG, DS9, Voyager, so on and so forth. So yeah, it says producers were offered to film a 16-minute epilogue to wrap up the series properly, and this was when the show was canceled. So we went from 2 hours down to 1 hour and 12 minutes. So famously, Peter and I are not enormous fans of Discovery. But just to recap, Peter, and again, I've not revisited that, but when you think about that last episode and how it wrapped up that storyline and how they had that epilogue where they jumped forward into the future and they redid Discovery.
They set up Calypso, yeah.
Yeah, so they could park it out in the middle of nowhere and set up basically a short. Sonequa Martin Green says, "Hey, I'm satisfied with how it turned out." How do you feel about the end of this? Do you think that was satisfactory, or do you think they could have done more by having more, like having twice the length to wrap up the story?
I don't know if they could necessarily have done anything. Well, no, they could have fleshed some things out in the end, because that finale did feel a little bit rushed.
Right.
Especially like when they're trying to like finalize all of the stuff with the basically the preservers and all of this. Like some of it was just kind of like, here, left field. Okay, let's wrap this all up. So if they had another like hour-ish, that probably would have helped make it feel a little bit less chaotic.
Yeah.
So I would say that it probably would. I don't know that it would help my opinion of it, but it would help the show wrap itself up in a better way. While the 16-minute or whatever it was epilogue did something.
It did something.
I don't think it was something that needed to happen. Yeah. So it was kind of like a period at the end of the sentence when you already had a period. At least that's what it felt like to me, because it was like, hey, let's die on the hill of making sure that Calypso's set up.
Right. And such a again, the short tracks, which was the segments they're even up for grabs in our random episode configuration. I think that we have one on the schedule, as a matter of fact, for later this year. While those are up for grabs, in a lot of ways, they're something that is very easily missable to someone who's not a very granular, watch everything, understand everything, because they're between like 10 and 15, maybe 20 minutes each
at best. And and some of them you're even like, like I know that like the official stance is whatever is on screen is canon, but
Yep.
we had this whole debate for the longest time about the animated series, and these feel very, very in that same sort of pseudepigraphal weirdness land of like, is it actually canon? Because there's some really gooky stuff that happens.
Right. Now, when they have a tie in with something you see in the show, which they did with some of the early, with one of the early short treks, and it was one with Tilly and the princess, and then the princess.
Yeah, that tied into a later episode. Yeah.
But the Calypso one, which was Discovery appears as it did in season 2. So it was kind of its classic appearance in the distant future with a single individual who wakes up and the ship is powered by AI, and they have this kind of weird relationship where they dance and then he leaves. It's
very strange episode.
Kind of a much ado about nothing. So for them to to kind of shoot their shot and to wrap up.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the attention to continuity here,
right.
because I've always been a stickler for that, but it just seems like it was a weird choice. And we get, another uniform.
Right.
I love uniforms, but it's like, okay, guys, we're cycling through so many.
And it's funny, those have not showed up, but the badge has, which is kind of interesting. You can actually get that badge that I think at least Burnham's son wears. I can't remember if or maybe they're both wearing the badge, the Tricom badge they have does appear there. So that's available from fan sets if you're a diehard and got to get them all. That's, I've gotten down to the point collecting badges where I've really thinned down my uniform collection, as you know. So I'm sticking just with a badge that would go on a uniform I have, because that's,
I pretty much just stick with those.
I'm not wearing them in everyday life. So. So anyway, that's Discovery. And again, if you love Discovery, I love that you love Discovery. I love if people have different opinions than us. That's great. We know that we're going to see some Discovery characters in Starfleet Academy, so you get to enjoy that. But yeah, you're right. I agree with you. It's kind of a weird hill to die. I don't want to say hill to die on, because
it's literal.
Yeah. But it's kind of a way to go out, is kind of not just to let it trickle off in the distance. I don't know, but yeah, I don't. I feel like definitely a 2-hour finale, they would have found something to do with it that would have potentially done the show a little bit more justice than just a kind of tacked on. Hey, we're referencing back to this thing. We don't know if you've seen it, but here it is. So, all right, well, let's leave the world of Discovery, and we got kind of a 1-2 punch about what has. You love it and you hate it, and you hate that you love it and love that you hate it. The saga behind season 3 of Strange New Worlds coming before our eyeballs, and I've not heard, because there's no drop date, I've not heard anything from CBS as far as a screener, so I don't know when I'm going to see it. But I did get a screener for Section 31, which that was a trip. I probably didn't know if I should have really pursued that, but anyway, it got me back in good with the screener people, and I'm glad they have done it. But we now know that season 3 of Strange New Worlds will premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival on June 14th, which means if you are local to the New York area, because Tribeca is a district in the borough of Manhattan, and you are like, I'm sure that my friends who are part of, my friend Michael, who runs a Star Trek cosplay group, and I do snag invitations and stuff like this. His group of people will probably be there. I'd love to tell you, could drop everything and run off to New York City. I would love it, because New York City is incredible, but I've not been back in many, many years, just because it's not exactly next door. But yeah, on Saturday, June 14th at 5 p.m. At the Indeed Theater in Tribeca. If you happen to be a local and you haven't heard the story, tickets will be made available sometime before that to get in and see what I'm assuming is the first episode of this, or potentially, I don't know. Yeah, tickets go on sale April 29, which is, by the time you listen to this, that'll be right around that same time. I'm not getting from a vibe exactly what they're going to see. Are we seeing an episode? Are we seeing more than one episode? Am I missing that in this blurb?
I didn't catch that. I think it's just the first episode.
Yeah, that seems to be logical. So, so we're saddled with the this summer release time frame of
Could be August.
Strange New Worlds, that could mean anything. This and other articles that I've looked at have speculated that, that could mean a drop as soon as a week later, or who knows what. The show, I believe the previous season 2, back in 2023, came out in mid-June. I'd have to go back and look, but for something
that sounds about right. Yeah,
something in my head resonates because I remember. I remember I was traveling from my old job and I was in a hotel room. I knew the trailer dropped and I watched it. Boom, and I remember June 15. 2023. For some reason, that's what I mean. But this does make the point. Summer doesn't really begin until June 20, so it may not premiere into July, but it probably won't be as August. But it's all like blah, blah, blah. So based on that, of course, I look at our schedule and I'm like, when are we going to move stuff around? Because what I really want to do, and I've reached out to him and said, yes, I'm going to have Todd back on. We're going to do a series so far or previously on where I'll probably find a couple of videos, one that recaps each season, and then we'll just kind of do a breakdown, and that'll be the segment 1 of our show for that week. But I don't know what week that's going to be. In addition to that, season 4 is heading towards its halfway mark. We know that Starfleet Academy is finished because Jonathan Frakes told us that when we interviewed him.
Yep, he was dropping off the finale.
Yeah, so
the cut anyway.
Yeah, the cut, exactly. So season 3 looks fun and exciting. Looks like they're doing a lot of different stuff. Keeping my fingers crossed that we don't get saddled with another musical, but that is my opinion on the topic. I know a lot of people really enjoy that kind of stuff, and again, I'm a very firm believer that you should enjoy what you enjoy, and nobody should cast aspersions upon it. So if that's something that you enjoy, so much the better. But
more power to you.
June 14 is just over 2 weeks away. If you're listening to this when we drop, so I would really love to think that something more will materialize after that time. So, all right. And then as a caveat to this, and I will admit, with all my running around, I don't know that I really got a chance to watch this, but I absolutely should. But I saw just little clips from it. But Peter, you're a kid of the 90s. How do you feel about SpongeBob SquarePants?
I don't watch it.
No, was not.
No, I am not that kind of 90s kid. I am aware of SpongeBob. I have seen bits and pieces, but it's not really my thing. When I was that age, I would say that I could feel my brain cells dying as I was watching it. So
that is very tough to disagree with. I know that when my son Noah, my oldest son, he's 25 now, will be 25 next month, when he was 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5, this was very much a thing for him.
Oh, it's the main thing. It's the main thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. So what's great and wonderful, and at least kind of brings a smile to my face, is that SpongeBob, being owned by Viacom, has appeared in a promotional segment that portrays SpongeBob with a starship shaped like Patrick, with an appearance by Ethan Peck as Spock. Obviously sharing a Vulcan salute with him. That's just fun.
Imagination. That got me a giggle. The rest of it was just like, oh my gosh.
I absolutely dig it. And good for them. And this makes me feel positive that they're ramping up to us actually having a drop and being able to be excited about this. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing that I'm happy about. So yeah, I would have to imagine we will know within the next, I'm going to say, 3 weeks when we're really going to see it. If they're really turning up the heat and cranking out promotional spots and all this kind of good stuff, so much better. So yeah, so we have that to look forward to. So we're going to have a Star Trek summer of some kind. I just don't know exactly when, but when it does, we will be here. So, all right, well, let's move on. We mentioned jumping in to talk about a random sode. We're talking about Lower Deck. So this was a role of the virtual selector by our Patreon Tanya Lee, who is also a contributor to the show. We are jumping into season 3, episode 10, "The Stars at Night." Very quick summary. The Cerritos crew must prove their worth in a mission race. That it tells you nothing about the episode.
I mean, it is an apt description, but it tells you nothing.
Exactly.
Which are the perfect kinds of things that you needed in a TV guide back in the day. Nowadays, it doesn't matter so much.
That would have pegged in really great. But something right off the bat. Well, I noticed something that's nitpicky, and then I noticed something kind of overall to talk about this episode.
Is this the Pips?
It's rank bars. So
yes.
Pips but a bar. We start the episode with our Captain Freeman, sitting in a room full of admirals who are wearing the. I've transitioned into just calling them Monster Greys because it's better than saying later DS9 / First Contact. They're Monster Greys. That's forever. That's
I think they're called the Blacks and Grays, kind of like
the Blacks and Grays.
In the Army. They called the World War II one the Pinks and Greens. So
there you go.
A double
right.
word.
But at any rate, we're talking about a flag officer uniform. Flag officer uniforms in all of the TNG era featured a neckline. In this case, we have an undershirt that zips up the middle, which they don't show the zip in the middle in animated form. They kind of leave that out. But you have rank bars on both sides, and then you also have rank bars at the cuffs. And this omits the rank bar on the right side, left side, and then it omits the cuff. So that annoyed me, but whatever. Overall, looking at the episode, we go through a lot of fun stuff, which we'll talk about. I absolutely love how you can tune into this episode, and being familiar with the series, you can still feel it's still episodic, even though it's concluding a storyline that's been going on and some other things that have happened that you don't feel lost watching it in 22 minutes.
No. And they bring back up some things that you need to remember. Like there's the whole bit with Rutherford's past. They bring that up very, very quickly, just enough for you to be like, oh, right, move on. Right,
exactly, correct. Take us through it. Give me kind of some of your impressions. Again, this will be a little quicker just because it's only 22 minutes of a program to talk about.
Yeah, so we've got we start with the whole conference, and hilariously, it's in a very similar room to Star Trek VI, which they even replicated the goofy lights, which was fantastic.
Oh, nice! Didn't catch that.
Yeah, the desk lamps it's like, that was one of the first things I noticed the first time I watched it. It's like, oh, that's funny. But we're having basically an argument between whether the California class or these drone ships, the Texas class, are gonna take over mostly with certain things, and so Admiral
the second contact
stuff. So Admiral Buenamigo is making arguments, and everyone's freaking out, and eventually Freeman's like, "Let's do a mission race," and
I challenge you to a race around the world or the sector.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's like around the sector and 10 minutes or something, but but then we have the Cerritos. The Cerritos had been beaten up in the last episode. They've been putting it back together, which is hilarious if you think about the end of the episode. But so then they start going on their whole mission, and you got Admiral Buenamigo by himself controlling the Aledo from one very M5 looking computer.
That was
really funny.
There was a note both that I made and then in the notes that I grabbed. So it was very M5, and then the plot line of this very
M5, and it's three ships. There's so many parallels. It's quite funny. I also think this was running in the back of my head as whether or not this is like a little bit of a dig in the beef that California and Texas just have against each other in general, because it's those two classes of ships fighting, which I thought was pretty funny.
Funnier still that you should mention that there was a show, it came out last year, it was called Civil War, not like the Civil War from Marvel, but it was about, what would a real civil war look like in this country, really even pursuant to a lot of the things going on. And there were three sides. There was the United States, there was like a Florida coalition, and then there was the Western coalition, which was, and the director made it this way on purpose. It was Texas and California banded together into a single union, which you think, well, how bad would things have to be in this country for Texas and California to form a nation? Yeah, very, very bad, that's a great flick. And if you've not seen it, I highly encourage you checking it out. No matter what your politics is, it's compelling. But anyway, I did love, it's funny, they're prepping for this mission, and I know that they're running around and getting everything ready. I did call out Ransom for performing the over the leg chairlift lift of the
Yeah, everyone's practicing. It's the Riker maneuver, and then it's like, hey, you need to move the isolinear chips data quick. It's like,
right, exactly. So the race was cool. They were neck and neck. They visited a lot of fun planets. I love the reference to Brigadoon, which was a musical from the 40s with the disappearing planet. That was kind of fun. But our people stopped slightly longer because they detect a... Sorry for that pause in station identification. Laundry emergency. But where were we?
We were giving a little bit of grief for Brigadoon, and then we were going to talk about the other planet.
Yes. So they had to stop. So Cerritos takes a little longer because Tendi thinks she detects microbial life form, and that's Prime Directive stuff. But the Alito class doesn't stop, and it warps off. And so our people end up losing the race, but then they're having a comms conversation between the captain and Buen Amigo.
And Rutherford's been distracted this whole time because he's like, something looks familiar in this code.
Yeah, right. And then he figures out that the code is really his old code from his fuzzy memory of his accident where he was reconfigured with these
with the implant,
and then it all ties back. And so it's at the exact moment we get, and I like this, to riff on the Badmiral, which obviously we already kind of figured out we didn't like when
they said it without saying Badmiral, but they described it like how everyone does.
Bad faith admiral. That's cool. And I wrote Buen Amigo so much and kept respelling it. I just called him BM, which is kind of perfect because he's
Admiral,
because he's a shithead. But an AI can't have daddy issues is the quip that gets made at that exact moment. But it's super quick that the Alito goes Skynet. And he, when BM
blows up Buen Amigo.
When he disables its safety protocols, it blows him up, and then it just goes nuts, starts attacking Douglas Station, which is the starbase they're at. And and then this was kind of weird. I'm trying to remember. So a Sovereign class shows up, helps them fight for a second, and then the Cerritos warps off, and then the three Alito ships follow. What happened with the Sovereign? Was it disabled?
The Van Sitters, who is it's the name of one of the guys who helps with some licensing stuff over at Paramount.
Oh, very good. Okay,
so he was one of the guys that helped with the fan film guidelines, amongst other things. So if you've heard the name, that's where it's from.
Gotcha. So
it gets disabled, and then they're pummeling the station. Then Freeman hails the Aledo and it's like, hey, we've got a guy who can shut you down, and it recognizes Rutherford, and then they start chasing him.
Right. So there's it's kind of a brief chase. Everybody's trying to come up with ideas of how to get rid of him, and Boimler and Jax have been at odds because Jax caught Boimler, doing an impression of him, and it really hurt his feelings. But now Boimler says, "Everybody, shut up and listen to Jax." And Jax says, "Let's eject the warp core." And the captain says, "That's what you always want to do." But they end up doing it, and it helps because it destroys.
And they got this whole hilarious run through the ship and double key.
Right, the double and it ends up destroying two of the three ships, but the Alito, the original ship, is still intact. It's at this exact moment that, and I called it ship porn like pornography, which I was going to originally call this episode, but then I thought, even if I change the letters, I don't think I want the word pornography.
The algorithm will do weird things if you do that.
I ended up making a different pick but then again, as we talk, and if we come up with something better, I'll change the name again. But I didn't do that. But now every California class ship, which is like nearly 20 ships, shows up, and Boimler's rattling off the names from them, and all of them are obviously the names of places,
cities in California,
which is actually, it's a lot of fun. So obviously they're successful. I did write, I won't rest until we learn more about the ship that has the Cerritos crew, but they're all bipedal bees. You see it for a second. I want to know about the sentient bee race. That looks fantastic. I wrote, then our people end up, the ship is trashed again. It's back at the Douglas Station starbase. And I said the starbase itself, they're going to need a lot of spackle to fix that up because it's all
oh, there's holes in it. Yeah,
it's bad.
It's really bad.
But, in a moment that's kind of expected, Mariner comes back. She did appear, she and her archaeologist partner, and I did leave out
an Indiana Jones bit. Yeah,
I love the Indiana Jones bit and the fertility idol, which is famous in Raiders of the Lost Ark, is a little Klingon. I remember that in particular with the clips of the season when we were teeing up to it when this was on a couple of years ago. But anyway, Mariner says we've still got to go. We've got to go. When she realizes this is going on, she knows we got to help. And her partner, who's a civvy in ex-Starfleet, hates Starfleet. So like, well, who cares about them and blah blah blah. But Mariner shows up and she's the one who brought all the Cali class ships with, so we kind of let that part out. But anyway, she's now back with her friends and gushing emotions. And then her mom shows up and they have a big hug out, and then it's obvious that Mariner's coming back, and that's all right. So she says, can I have like a mentor or somebody to kind of help me through stuff? And
she picks Ransom.
She picks Ransom, and he's not psyched about it. But at this exact moment, we also get a second appearance by the Vulcan T'Lyn, who we saw several episodes back on a Vulcan ship where she was being marginalized for her overly emotional behavior. But yes. I said yay to return for her, and yay to the return of the provisional officer Lajans that you saw. Did I say the word right? Lojans. What do they call the thing when you take a cough drop?
Lozenge, I think.
It's a lozenge. There you go. That's what they seem to call it. But yeah, that little bar with the slashes on it, which I love. It's nice to know that because again,
exists.
It appeared in Voyager, but it never appeared before. So you would tend to think that it existed before that, and so it kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to like how the enlisted ranks didn't show up until Deep Space Nine, and really then only for the chief because they didn't really put it on anybody else.
You know what they did? I thought they did in that one Empok Nor episode where there was all the enlisted guys.
Empok Nor they may have, but generally elsewise they didn't really worry about it.
And then now it just doesn't like in Picard, I feel like it never came up. But anyway, we're picking nits as we always do. But that was really fun. So then we wrap up. We watch the credits. And you tend to get the vibe there's a credits or there's there's a stinger after the credits if it doesn't just jump you to the next episode when you're watching it on Paramount Plus. But we do get a title. We see a Starscape. We get a title card that says Kala System. You see scrappers that are beaming up some trash. Part of it is, so this was from the finale of the previous season, and part of it is Rutherford's old implant, and it flickers, and there's the evil Badgie hologram. He's alive, and that's the end.
Yep.
So it was a nice tee up, and that's what I said in my rating. This was a 9 out of 10 for me. I did give it a single demerit for the costuming error, but that's my brand. That's what I do. Love the ship porn. Not going to use that in the title. Nice heartwarming ending, bringing the family back together, which is it's a trope of sitcoms, which is okay. This is a sitcom in a lot of ways, for lack of a better term, and I love sitcoms, so that doesn't bother me in the slightest. Great to bring T'Lyn in as a regular and teasing the return of Badgie. This was what I think a season finale should absolutely be.
This was a fantastic season finale.
It doesn't have to be a cliffhanger. It can just be something fun that reminds you why you love the show. How about you?
Exactly. I can't say a whole lot more. It's a really good episode, and it had a ton of callbacks. Like we saw a bunch of characters who we had seen on other Cali ships show back up just for grins and giggles, which was fun. But yeah, it's just one of those things that like really emphasize like, hey, here's what we like about the characters. Here's why we enjoy the show so much. And, finally letting Shax do his warp core breach thing, which we've been teasing for 2 whole seasons at this point. Right. So it's just like, it's classic Lower Decks, and it's great. So
absolutely. And we a lot of the fun facts I had listed, we kind of already touched. Brigadoon, much like the DS9 episode Meridian from season 3, that was very similar to that. The mysterious benefactor between Petra's mission to retrieve the stolen artifacts is Jean-Luc Picard. So this was not the first mention of him, because Picard as a show was going on, but at this point he was still Starfleet, and he would have money because he's got that vineyard. He's got that vineyard money. But again, it also kind of throws into the, outside of the Federation, people still use money, but Picard lives in the Federation, so he still has it. I don't know. It's one of those.
It's a little goofy, but
it's one of those kind of quasi inside baseball things that you don't need to really worry about. But Lower Decks, we love you, miss you, but this was a fun episode. And again, I do enjoy a finale that is not all gloom and doom, that gives you some happiness, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a terrible.
Doesn't have to be a cliffhanger. Just be goofy.
Exactly. All right. Well, that wraps up talking about this random episode. We will be back next time with a different random episode. But again, hit us up on socials. If you want to play the random episode game, I'm happy to have you be a part of it. You just have to drop us either a ping on socials, and we'll give those later, or always secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Send us a note saying, hey, I want to play. Let me know how to play in choosing an episode. If you email us about that or about something else, we'll definitely talk about it on the show. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, here we go. Getting into the proper end of a show, a series that has an actual finale, Star Trek, The Next Generation. So this started airing in September of 1993. This was my senior year in high school. Peter was just out of diapers because he's a young man. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, this was, I was just talking about cliffhangers now and wrapping up season 6. That was quite some time back. We had a big Data Borg cliffhanger. We found out at the end of that cliffhanger that his brother Lore was still around, and now he was running this group of Borg. But again, even by the wrapping up of that previous episode, we didn't know to what extent or why these Borg were following him, or what his influence is. But this helped us out. So episode 1 is Descent. Part 2, Alexander Singer, a veteran director, handling things. Renee Echevarria, a bigwig on the writing staff, handling those duties from September of 1993. The Borg are being led by Lore. Data falls under his control by being fed negative emotions. So a big cliffhanger like this, when you have like a summer to be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? This thing and that thing. The stakes were never higher than the best of both worlds. That is just for me, that's the biggest high stakes cliffhanger that Star Trek has ever had. Unless I'm just like, I'm not thinking of the right thing. But, and again, you didn't see this when it was first on. You probably watched part 1 and then you watched part 2.
Yep.
So, you tell me, we have two different perspectives. I waited the summer out. I was excited to see what happened. But watching this as a 1-2 punch, how does it feel as like a complete story? Now, keep in mind, way down the road, you and I are going to spend probably over a year talking about 2-part episodes in segment 2 of this show. And that's going to be probably 2 years from now that we're going to be doing that. So we're talking about just this segment as opposed to the whole thing. So how do you feel this delivered on what happened in part 1?
I think that for this one, the issue with Data, particularly the emotions, it was explained very, very quickly in this particular episode. Like, I mean, we all knew that something was up with that, but then like we get like a really quick explanation in the beginning of how, like, what's going on and how that happened.
Right.
And then like the rest of the episode is like them trying to figure out a solution for that.
Right.
Which is
Star Trek,
basically rebooting Data's ethical subroutine.
Right.
Okay. That's basically the B plot in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, that's the A plot. B plot is
right.
Hugh. So,
and then you have a C plot back
with
on
Crusher on the ship. Yeah,
with Crusher and this young ensign who's, Crusher's trying to give her some agency and saying, "Hey, I bet you didn't, you're here and helping out, but I want you to stick around because another a more senior lieutenant, a guy who's probably, he's equal in rank to Worf, so he may be, co-security chief or co-something or other.
Delta shift security or something.
He comes back and they kind of butt heads because she's young and he's older. And in the end of it, this young woman, Ensign Tate, comes up with a solution that gets him out of the jam of fighting with the ship, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely some interesting stuff there. So the snippy back and forth of like, well, let me make sure that my calculations are right. Like that was like, it was great, but it was also just oh my gosh, you guys figure it out.
Right.
But otherwise it was pretty good. I thought it was interesting how we had Lore is doing Lore things of just like, he's just kind of making shit up as he goes and hurting everyone around him because he's just a jerk.
Yeah.
And so like you have the Borg who have survived and are like, he's like experimented on some of them and it hasn't worked out well. And so they're just kind of discarded. And so Hugh's kind of there. Hugh blames the Federation for this.
Of course.
Which, I mean,
I mean, it wouldn't happen without him.
You understand it, but at the same time, you're like, bro, they wouldn't have known that this would have happened.
And of course, that is spinning off of like one of my least favorite sci-fi tropes that happened in that episode, and then they did it in BSG, and I feel like they did it in another show we talked about recently, where it's like, oh, the ethical demands of poisoning one member of a species that'll kill all of them. What do we do? Didn't that come up in something else we were talking about?
I think it did. It was revisited in a way in Voyager. I can't remember the name of the episode.
It was an episode I'm sure we talked about in this last.
I mean, some of it was.
You know what
it was Echeb's parents.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was Echeb's parents. I can't remember
the name of the episode, but it was.
But it was also the Borg.
Yeah, exactly. So it started here, at least on the Star Trek parlance. So I think, and again, there were some things left out. You didn't know anything about the Borg ship, where it came from.
No, and they don't really explore they know was it Croesus?
Yeah.
He just kind of fades into the background in this episode.
He gets zapped because in that last scene where Lore has demanded that Data has to kill Picard.
Oh, in the final part, he dies. But I'm just saying, like, for the rest of the episode, he's not really involved.
You're right.
Whereas he was like a heavy part of the episode.
Yeah, he just has one chat where he's walking. He's walking around with Lore, and Lore's talking to him, but he's not saying anything back. So he's like, "Well, Croesus, I think I'm going to have to kill my brother," and Croesus doesn't say anything. It's like
he just stares at him. So it's like,
okay, well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things like that character who was very pivotal in part one, just kind of like, well, Lore's here now, so okay.
Right, yeah. That was the big setup. And then another part of it I know very famously reading, and of course, Larry Nemechek's book. And, we had Larry on as an interview, which actually just dropped on our Patreon recently. But Larry is actually going to come back and join us for an episode like this later on this summer, which I'm very excited about. In his book, it was mentioned one of the potential story ideas for season 7 was to revisit this colony and see like how they're doing on down the line, and that never happened. We do get Hugh back in the first season of Star Trek Picard, and so we see, his life did go on, and he was working to help extra.
Not well.
The work he was doing was good. He was helping other, Borg who had broken free to kind of reclaim their personage, as it were. But in the end of it, it didn't work out so good for him.
Nah.
So overall, as a finale, I thought, as a story, I liked it. As a finale, you have so much time that you still end up leaving out some things that you feel like could have been handled in a different way, but not dreadfully so. So
no, it's a fine second part. It's just as second parts go, it's just perhaps not the strongest when you compare it to like Best of Both Worlds Part 2, Time Zero Part 2, Chain of Command Part 2.
Right.
Like there's some pretty heavy hitters,
right?
And this one works. But it's not the best. It's also the last time that we see Lore as Lore.
Right. Because in Picard season 3.
Because in Picard season 3, that's a whole that's a whatever. But like,
right.
This was, again, if you watched any of our episodes when we were talking about Picard season 1, this was like a major missed opportunity with not bringing this character back, because we knew where he was. But this is one of those threads that they never really picked back up in any meaningful way. The comics have done a little bit right now, like they've got Lore doing the crazy lore crap.
In IDW, which I've dabbled, but I've fallen off. Getting with those, but at any rate, all right. Well, let's move on. Episode 2 is yours. Go for it.
You had to give me this one. All right, number 2, Liaisons, directed by Cliff Bull, story by Roger Eschbacher, Jack Greenspun, teleplay by Jean Kerrigan Fauci, and Lisa Reach.
No names I've ever heard of. So
I don't know anyone.
This is a slush pile.
Probably. So this is from September 27th of 93. Worf and Troy reluctantly play host to 2 Lyran ambassadors while Picard crashes in a shuttle with another one. He is rescued by a human female who exhibits strange behavior.
I got one word for you. Filler. This was such a filler episode. Now, admittedly, there was some very fun stuff with Worf, which there was some
fun stuff on the Enterprise.
We never get enough fun Worf on TNG.
I mean, Worf
it's more in DS9 when he's playing off of Quark or he's playing off of Jadzia, where you get to see Worf be funny. But this is one of the few aspects because they're each assigned so he has a delegate he has to deal with. Troy has to take care of the other guy. The other guy, Troy, part never really seems to stack. It's like, oh, well, he wants to learn about pleasure and being happy, but I'm like, hopefully he's not in the holodeck running, pornography programs or something. I hope that's not the case.
He appears to be only focused on food, which is like that's not the only thing that's like fun.
Right.
But okay.
Exactly. But yeah, they mercifully, or maybe it would be a better story if they would have done something with that. But yeah, the focusing on the Worf part of it, where he's dealing with this like overly aggressive guy who's getting in his face all the time and all this stuff, and it finally
belittling him and all this stuff.
Yeah, it finally takes Worf, snapping while they're having a poker game, and he just backhands the guy, and the guy stands up and says, "Thank you. This is what I came for. Is for you to. I was sent here to learn about aggression." And when you shift back to the whole Picard storyline on the planet, it's like yuck. It was just a big yuck. It was a dumb story.
It's like we're gonna try to force a romantic thing, and I mean they have Picard react appropriately, where he's also like kind of yuck. Yeah, like this isn't a thing. Right. And there's kind of like an explanation of that later in the episode, and it's like it works, but it's just.
Yeah,
it's just not.
Yeah,
it's one of those episodes like whenever I see it on, I'm like,
no. And in the modern age, you can just skip to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy seeing Worf getting mad about things, and there's some funny stuff. Like when the guy who is constantly asking about dessert, there's a point where he bumps into a kid, and he's like, "Should I give this kid dessert?" And the really funny thing, at least that got a big laugh out of me, was when he first start interacting with this kid, like there's like this like massive like side eye and looking at his mom. It's like, who the heck is this dude? Like, the acting for this kid was just on point, and it was really fun. That was like the highlight of the episode for me.
Don't take candy from strangers.
Yeah, it was this one kid just going like, huh?
Okay, well, mom's here, so exactly. The kind of the 24th equivalent of the if
stranger danger.
If the windowless stranger danger was a person, it probably could have been that guy.
Yeah,
so it was a loss of an episode. Yeah, and even though it had a good first contact-ish kind of vibe, it was kind of like, you can do without it. But again, and I've said it time and again, and I'll say it as often as it comes up, when you have 26 episodes, you got to take some swings. You got to try some different stuff, and it's okay because you can always move on. You can always move on to the next. And the next episode is one I think we get some really fine performances. Yeah. Episode 3 is Interface. Robert Weimer doing the directing from a script by Joe Menosky from October of '93. Geordi tries to rescue his mother's starship via a remotely controlled probe. I remember seeing this one for the first time, and even the cold open.
The cold open is neat.
Yeah, you just see Geordi in regular uniform without his visor and just regular old eyeballs, and he's running through, and he's you find out through this that he's running a drill through the Enterprise, and when he stops and catches his reflection, it's not him, it's a probe. And then you cycle back to Data's lab, and he's hooked up to this apparatus that lets him basically beam his consciousness into this probe and use it for extravehicular stuff in space and in other ships and stuff. But what he quickly finds out is that his mother, who's a command officer, we know that from previous reference, her ship, the Hera, has disappeared and is presumed lost, as we find out in later dialogue. And he's struggling to accept it. His mother is played by actress Madge Sinclair, who was the very first Starfleet captain that we ever saw in production order. 1986, the Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, she was the captain of the Saratoga, which is the first ship to get zapped by the probe that comes to Earth. So she's the first actual female Starfleet captain, non-canonically, but production-wise. And then we do find out he has conversation with his father via subspace, who is a scientist, who is played by veteran actor Ben Vereen, who is a classic of more things than I could possibly name. So that's pretty exciting. You get two totally
Yeah,
incredible.
you get both of
Actors.
Geordi's parents
Yeah.
at the same time, and they're played by two great people. So
Right. And so that is later on, Geordi is continuing to pilot this probe as they're trying to save the ship this ship that is sinking into the atmosphere, this gas giant or something of that nature. And he starts seeing his mother reflected within the probe, and he's like, oh my God, she's trapped down there. I can't explain how it happened. And then it really turns out that this ship, who all the crew it has died within this gas cloud, accidentally captured. So it just turns into a very Star Trek-y plot. They captured some non-corporeal life forms. They were using the probe to speak to Geordi to try to talk him into flying the ship out of the atmosphere. And in the end of it, he defies orders to try to continue to take it down, but also to rescue his mother. So at the end of it, yes, it's never 100% resolved that his mother isn't alive out there somewhere, but probably not, and it's never addressed again.
no,
But a great development episode for Geordi, the guy who always does what he's told, and he's a very good officer and follows orders and stuff. But when it comes to his family and his mom, he's willing to risk all, which any of us would probably do. So yeah, I really like this episode a lot for that reason. And then you get kind of some exposition from Riker talking about his own mother who died when he was born or when he was a baby, and what that was like. And Geordi kind of rebuffs him and saying, well, it's really not the same thing because your mother really was dead. And I was like, it's harsh, but damn.
Yeah. There's a lot of people trying to relate with Geordi, and he's just like, no.
Yeah, Troy's trying to talk to him, and he's not having it. So yeah, I thought that this was really fine. Some fine character development for Geordi, so I was really impressed. Liked the episode very much. All right, we're moving on to a two-parter. Now, we'll probably talk about this a little. We'll talk about it together.
Yeah.
So I'll just go ahead and read both parts, but keep in mind, further down the road, we're gonna spend an entire segment talking about this episode. But because it's so far in the future, it'll feel brand new. But this was a kind of a rare in-season two-parter. Now we don't have a ton of those within TNG.
No.
Unless I'm very
We
much
only have like 2 or 3 of them. That's about it.
right. Yeah, and and otherwise we have cliffhangers. But we have Gambits part 1 and part 2. Part 1 being directed by Peter Lorison, Alexander Singer handling part 2. And the story is so we have kind of a throughfare. Niran Shankar and Christopher Hatton handling the story, with Niran Shankar doing the teleplay in part 1, story in part 2, Niran Shankar, and teleplay by my hero Ronald D. Moore in part 2, which is probably why part 2 is better.
You can definitely tell there's definitely a difference in how part 2 plays.
Not to knock Niran Shankar, because again, he was one of the main guys on TNG's writing staff for definitely the second half of the series. But anyway, let's knock this out. This was from October and it was funny. I was doing college tours at this time because we were staying at my aunt's house in Bay City, Michigan, and I watched this I watched part of it on a little tiny TV in her kitchen. That's what I remember about this episode, at least one part of it. But then obviously have seen it many times subsequently in the last over 30 years. The Enterprise crew is investigating the apparent murder of Captain Picard during his R&R for an archaeological trip. Riker is then kidnapped by mercenaries and finds out that Picard is working as part of their crew. The two of them then help the mercenaries collect archaeological artifacts to prevent an ancient Vulcan weapon from falling into the wrong hands, and the wrong hands belong to guest star Robin Curtis, who we last saw playing Saavik in Star Trek 3 and 4. And we've subsequently seen her in things as recently as the Otoy Unification. Yep. Wasn't it called Unification? What was it called? What's called Unification? That great thing that we forget the name of it.
It had Stardate 7-3 something or other. It had a Stardate thing, but yeah.
We talked about it at length several episodes back, so you probably know what I'm talking about. So
yep.
As a two-parter, this one focused a lot more on action. We got a little space action. We got a little planetside action with an actual firefight in part 1, which I thought was pretty neat. We had a kind of, I won't say blink and you'll miss it because she appears in several scenes, but the relief operations officer is, I remember her last name, but not her first name, but she was the oldest daughter on The Cosby Show. She was Sandra on The Cosby Show, which I don't know.
I haven't really watched it, but that explains some things.
Yeah, I was going to say the Cosby Show. It's funny. April and I spent a lot of time watching these because we're Gen Xers and we're old now. So we said, hey, remember in your youth? The Cosby Show was such a massively big show in the 1980s that because of some other things that have happened with Bill Cosby in the last 20 years, I don't think exists anymore. I would be surprised if you could actually watch it somewhere. But anyway, that I thought that was pretty cool. Ensign Guisti was the name. She was given a name in one of the role play card games. So I don't think that makes it canon, but that's her beta canon name, I suppose. So yeah, I really dug this episode. I like Robin Curtis. I have been through our friend Kurt trying to get an interview with her and have so far not been successful. I think she's out of the business. Like on social media, I believe that she's a realtor in California now, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, she still shows up for they do get her to go to like the Star Trek tour up in Ticonderoga. She's been up there a couple times.
I met her at Mission Chicago back in 22.
I do know that like side plug, my friends that I help with over on Starship Excelsior, they got her to come back for their Star Trek 50th episode. So that was fun.
Well, we got to get her on the show. We got to get her on an interview with you and me over on the Patreon. So we'll keep working on it. But anyway, she's the main villain in this. I know there's another couple of familiar faces. Like, hey, it's that guy. I think all three of the other mercenary crew people are like, that's a guy that was in a bunch of stuff in the 90s. That this person,
the captain of the ship reminds me of David Bowie as the Goblin King. I know it's not him.
Yeah, no,
it's definitely not. Yeah, no. It's definitely not David Bowie, but it's like just whatever's going on with his face. That's where my brain goes.
But I think the other three crewmen all appeared as other characters in TNG previous to that, or another series after this. So, it's kind of a family friend or a face friendly kind of deal. But yeah, I like this one very much. You had some kind of great character development with Data because he takes on command of the ship when the other two are gone. You get some healthy conflict between him and Worf, where they have a couple of asides where they have to talk about boundary issues because Worf is acting XO. And yeah, I liked those parts. Beverly got some things to do, which I enjoyed. There's a very at the beginning of part one when first of all, I love the cold open to part one when they're in that bar. And it's funny, the bartender guy actually, and I'm drawing a blank on this. It's not. I think Stephen Root is his name. Is an actor, and he's since passed away. Who was in just a ton of stuff in the '90s. But he played one of the. Remember the Akamar, that episode of TNG? He was the head guy that the woman was trying to kill at the end. That was him. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was him. And he also played a corrupt cop in RoboCop 2. That's how I remember.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, he was great. But that was a super cool scene where the crew was trying to get information out of this guy who comes on the ship, and later he's trying to withhold, and Riker says, basically, I'll give you over to the Klingons if you don't tell me what I want to know. So I like seeing Riker be tough. This was his real, like, I'm a tough guy kind of thing happening. So definitely dug on that, but there's a great exchange after the open. So you have cold open, then you have the credits in part one, and then part two you have a very terse exchange between Riker and Troy that I think is absolutely great because it's the first real time you see them butt heads, but then they also make up and they have such a special relationship. Obviously, that I really like that because those are two of my favorite characters. It's my favorite Star Trek couple. What can I say? So I really enjoyed this one. This was definitely one that I would go back to time and again. Way back when VHS was there was a box set of tapes where this episode was integrated into a single segment. But all they really did, I remember this very clearly, they took the last shot of part one where the mercenary depowered phaser is zapping the nacelle of the Enterprise. And then they just, instead of doing a freeze frame to be continued, it just keeps going.
Yep.
Which is what they do on my disc, my Blu-ray disc copy of The Best of Both Worlds. They just, Riker says fire, and then they go to fire and you see the beam. So the's no recap, no extra credits, whatever it is.
Which is sad because there's like some really cool musical cues with that.
Yeah. So, but it's a bummer that this doesn't exist as a two-part. But even if you go back and watch like Encounter at Farpoint on Paramount Plus, they break it up into the syndicated two-part, which sucks. So I wanted to watch it recently. I got my disc out and watched it on disc because it's complete and there's a lot of trims and different stuff. So there's no cuts to this otherwise, and there weren't any cuts to Best of Both Worlds. But I would just really like it if they would just keep something that belongs together as a double length or a two-parter. Just keep it integrated. You know what I mean? Let it be one big movie. So anyway, I absolutely dug it. Just a definitely fun episode. How about you?
Gambit, I really enjoyed this episode. It's got some really interesting things going on. We get some Vulcan lore that gets kind of dropped in the middle there with like the Vulcan god of war and the Vulcan god of death and all this. Like there's some really interesting kind of like side notes here. And then the Vulcans tried to use their telepathy as a weapon.
The power of peace,
the psionic resonator, and only the power of peace makes it useless. And it was like
basically it was kind of the power of friendship. That would almost be a better name for that.
Yeah, the Vulcan power of friendship.
Vulcan power of friendship is now the name of this episode. Anyway, please continue while I type.
So it's like the only way to make it stop working is if you like have no violent intent, so you're like friend or peaceful or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I don't know how Worf got through that. What was he thinking about?
He just started thinking about like, I really want Targ for dinner.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or he's thinking about flowers or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's just kind of fun how it's like, oh yeah, this weapon that you thought you were going to be able to use, it would actually be pretty dang useless against the Vulcans. So it was just kind of a fun little twist. And the interesting thing is here we have like Picard is doing his whole archaeological thing. Like that's his cover, is he's an archaeologist smuggler, and he uses the name of his professor, Professor Galen. And it's like, dude, like
it's very inside baseball, but I mean, it's
also just one of those things of just like, I'm glad that no one like looks very hard, because in any other like detective franchise, they'd figure you out like that.
Yeah, right.
So that was kind of funny.
Admittedly, it's kind of an implausible like, well, we wanted him for his skills, so we shot him with a transporter phaser beam. It's like, oh, okay.
It's kind of strange.
It's kind of dumb, but whatever.
But it worked. There's some things where you can suspend your disbelief, and like as much as I know that I like to complain about a lot of things being not correct or whatever, but this is a one-off thing,
right? And
I mean, I don't think they use it ever again, the phaser transporter, but
no, doesn't come up that I can think of. But again, it's very Star Trek.
But we've also got some interesting things where it's like, hey, we don't want you to lead the shit. Like he tries to start immunity, and then it's like, oh, we'll never follow you, and then they follow him anyway. Mm-hmm. And so we see him like immediately take command and start to act captainly, and everyone just kind of falls in line. It's like Picard just has that kind of personality, even if he's trying to pretend to not be himself.
Right.
So it's just a good episode.
We had a guest star that was, oh my gosh, the guy who played the Klingon. It was James Worthy, who is
he's a NBA basketball player.
Yeah, he's an NBA star. With I'm so bad at the sports stuff. He was with the Lakers, which makes sense because it's filmed in LA. But I'm like, first of all, he's like 19 feet tall. So you're like, I bet he plays Klingon basketball, whatever the hell that is. Yeah. But I'm like, yeah, that guy. But again, he had almost no lines, which is perfect for an actor or for a sports personality trying to act. Though that's not true in all cases. But yes, it's the safest bet. So, all right, I will take us home with the last episode, and this one kind of makes you sad because you got the pedigree of two great people making it of what I think is an absolutely terrible episode. Episode 6 is Phantasms, directed by Patrick Stewart. Now, not his first directing, because I feel like, did he direct? I think his first episode was In Theory back in season 4.
Yeah, I think it was.
Episode 99. And Brandon Braga doing the writing. This is from late October of 93. Data experiences strange dreams while the Enterprise has issues with its new warp core, but not all is as it seems. So you're set up with Data's dreaming, which it could have been a one and done for me. Just don't really care about that. And then we got a technical issue with the ship and blah, blah, blah. And you end up getting kind of a crappy episode. That admittedly does give us some great bits, like Data dreaming, and he takes an old, receiver phone out of his chest, and
we've gotten plenty of Android memes out of it, which is great.
Exactly. And then Troy is the cake, and the Riker with the straw coming out of his temple. But it's overall, I mean, I'm gonna take you right back to episode 2 of the season. You know, we have yeah, exactly. Picard.
Hello, I have questions.
Yes, and he's talking to Sigmund Freud on the other end. So
it's even better.
it's definitely a little esoteric, and you know, they're kind of doubling down on the whole data dreaming thing, because we did it in the most back to a two-parter, which was not really a two-parter, which was Birthright last season. So we had part 1 was Data's dreaming and a little tiny bit about Worf running off to find his dad, and then the entirety of the second part is all about Worf finding his dad. So it was kind of like a 1.5-parter, that episode was, because the stories did not really
they did not line. The A's and B's plots did not. Ne'er the two shall meet, basically.
Ne'er the two shall meet. So yeah, I think this just overall comes up with an episode it's just kind of Dudsville, and we're gonna see, in my opinion, getting into season 7, I know it's heresy, and I feel bad saying it, and I know other people will hear me say it, and I simply ask for you to give me the same kind of grace that I would give any Star Trek fan giving their opinion about something that they didn't think was great. I feel like when we hit season 7, this was kind of true of season 3 of TOS, that we were kind of at we're running on empty. We're getting down to fumes. The good stories, we're not getting those great runs of like, out of 26 episodes, we've got 7 or 8 bangers in a row, and then we have one that's maybe not, and then we pick right back up again. I feel like we're under 50%, on an average performance wise.
Yeah, we're not like, it's not like, oh my gosh, stinker after stinker, but it's
right.
There's a bunch. Season 7 is one of those seasons where it's like some of the episodes you either love them or you hate them, and then there's like because they're just kind of like and then there are some really solid ones, like we had Gambit.
I think you absolutely find out as you get closer to the end of the season that things pick up a bit, because we get obviously the series finale, which is exceptional.
We also have
you have a Journey's End, when Wesley's
Journey's End, and then
preemptive strike with
that's
Ro.
the one that I was trying to think of.
And those are all in
those are like the last 5 episodes. It's like exactly. the last bunch are really, really good, but in the middle, like we get Sub Rosa, we get some other weird stuff. But
over the next 2 months, you're going to hear us kind of be a little bit down on some of these episodes, which
is sad because it's TNG. But
exactly, and TNG is, let's face it, TNG, without TNG, you would not have anything else that followed it, because it spawned 2 direct sequels, and then it spawned films that followed, and it spawned, the current, second golden age of Star Trek that's going on right now. But nothing is infallible. Everybody's got a bad day at work, and they end up writing, a duffer episode, and this just happens to be one of them.
And like the next one that we'll get to next time, the first episode right after this one is another kind of downer.
I haven't even looked, so don't tell me. But that's it. So that's this first 6-pack, which is really 5 because it's a 2-parter. So let's pick a favorite and a least favorite. The least favorite part that's going to be the harder part. But I'm going to say, without a doubt, Gambit. Boom. That's the episodes 4 and 5. Great story, a lot of action, great, Star Trek-y message, great, the power of friendship, and the crew will go to any, Riker will do anything at all to, find Picard because he doesn't.
I will avenge him by Grabthar's hammer.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a savings! Absolutely loved it. Least favorite episode, again. We can't do a tie. We've always said, for the rules of this, we can't do a tie. So you definitively have to pick a worst one. While Liaisons is bad, Phantasms is much worse. So Phantasms, last place.
Yeah, that's fair. For my favorite episode, I'm probably going to go with Gambit as well. It's just out of everything, it's just so much better. Like I do like Descent Part 2, but Gambit is just it's a complete story. I think it finishes better. So I'm just going to pick that one. For worst, I'm going to pick Liaisons. Not just to be different, but because there's parts about Phantasms that I do kind of like, and I also just like laughing at the cake and the phone, and like
Yes.
there's enough stupid in there that I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Whereas liaisons, I'm just like cringing into the couch
Yeah.
like most of the episode.
The redeemability of it just with the Worf stuff is just not enough.
Yeah, it's not quite enough.
It's
no,
like
there's just
like
it's like
20% of the episode is that, and the rest of it is just like yuck.
Yeah, there's just too much cringe. I don't like it.
Too much cringe, no doubt about it. All right, well, we will be back in our next episode to take on the next quarter of episodes in this, and with another random episode, which we will leave nebulous because I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I don't remember what it is. But we do get ever closer to knowing when we can switch over and start talking about Stranger Worlds, which I'm very excited about. But in the meantime, friends, as always, thank you for joining us. Peter, where do people find you out there?
You can find me around the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas. I'm not terribly active, but you can find me. I'm mostly active on our Discords. You can also find me over on ELH's Discord and Twitch channel, where I'm playing a Temerian engineer on a coaxial warp drive ship. Go
That's
watch.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, go watch the episode where I bring up USS Fire Truck. It's dumb. And then you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
I love it. Good deal. Don't forget always that the mailbag is open at secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. We would love to hear what you think about not only what we're talking about here in Star Trek, but really anything that you're enjoying in the pop culture world. And we will talk about that on one of our shows if you send us a note. As always, you can find me on the big socials, that is Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram, as at the C3THECEETHREE. And as Peter mentioned, the Discord is where it's at, Secret Friends Unite. If you don't find us on Discord, ping one of us and we'll send you an invitation. But that's where we're having a lot of fun talks about video games, Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel and DC Comics, movies, TVs, etc. We would love to have you
all
there.
The things.
All the things. So with that, thanks for joining us one more time. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.